Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars, and welcome to another of my double reviews. Now this double review should give you something of a hint of what I've been watching over the Christmas period, as I have been watching Father of the Bride 1 and 2, and I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed them. I found them very entertaining, so I thought I would do a double review on both of the films and speak briefly on each. So of course the first film we need to be talking about is Father of the Bride. It was released in 1991 and it stars, of course, Steve Martin. We have Diane Keaton, we have Martin Short, we have Kimberly Williams, Kieran Culkin, George Newborn and B.D. Wong. Now this focuses on Steve Martin's character, George Banks, who is a regular guy. He's got a family who he loves very much, and his daughter has been away and he's very excited to see her return. And when she does return, she drops the bombshell that she has fallen in love and indeed is getting married, which is something of a bombshell to Steve Martin's character George Banks, and he struggles to come to terms with this massively. Because he just basically doesn't want to lose his daughter. So this film essentially focuses on the build up to the wedding and the constant breakdowns that George Banks has along the way. And also along the way, Martin Short, who plays Frank, who is a very comedic character, is hired to be the wedding planner, much to the dismay of Steve Martin's character, as his grip on the wedding and his daughter is slipping throughout this film. Right, so what did I think of Father of the Bride, the first one, part 1? It's an utterly charming film. Now it's one of those comedies that's really nice to just sit and chill to and watch. It's full of warmth and great family moments, and Steve Martin plays these characters so well, where the family man and the father and the good husband, and then his comedy genius just seeps out occasionally in this film, in this performance, when he just loses it a few times, when he's for example, when he goes to the supermarket, he doesn't want the 12 buns, he wants 8 buns, so he takes 4 out and chucks them, and he just loses it a few times throughout this film. And you see that classic Steve Martin that we saw in earlier performances. It's still there, and his charm is evident throughout this film. He's got great chemistry with Diane Keaton, who plays Nina, his wife, and they bounce off each other really well, and you really believe their relationship. It was a really charming relationship. And Kimberly Williams as well really played the part well as his daughter, and George Newborn as the son-in-law to be. You get all the cringeworthy moments meeting the in-laws and all that kind of stuff, and it all going terribly wrong. It pictures the film really perfectly, and it rides the wave right to the end, with some really uplifting moments when the actual wedding takes place. It's full of charm, it's full of fun, this film, and it's got some good comedy moments in it. It's not like many comedies that are pitched at us these days, that are kind of gross out humour and fart jokes and toilet jokes and sex jokes and all that kind of stuff. It's quite a wholesome film in many ways, and quite an old-fashioned comedy, and it is a really nice watch. A really easy watch, and it's one you can just sit down with your wife or your partner and just have a lot of fun watching. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's a lovely watch, and a real nice chill out movie. So then following that, in 1995 we get Father of the Bride Part 2, and this was again a slightly less of a hit, but still, when you look at the box office numbers for the time, wasn't too bad at all for a comedy film. And this time round it's set a year after the first one, and things are just starting to settle, and then there is some news from his daughter and her husband Annie, and Brian, they turn up and drop the bombshell that they are having a baby. So once again, George Banks, Steve Martin's character, has a bit of a breakdown. He has a midlife crisis, basically. He goes away and dyes his hair. He wants to sell the house and buy a beach condo. He wants to get a bike, all this kind of stuff. He really has a meltdown because the thought of being a granddad terrifies him. And just to add more stress to George Banks, his wife and he find out that they are going to be having a baby at the same time, which sends him into an absolute meltdown because he can't believe that he's going to become a father again at his age. So you get some great comedy moments there, not only because he's going to be a granddad, but then he finds out he's going to be a father again at the same time, so it's like doubly stressful moments for George Banks. Frank Martin Short again makes an appearance in this film, and he does like the baby shower for the two expecting mothers, and again it's got some great comedy moments in it, this film. This part of me at times enjoys this more than the first one sometimes, because it's I think some of the comedy moments are better in this film. There's the scene where he takes the sleeping pills, Steve Martin, and then he takes too many of them and he's completely zonked. It's quite funny. Martin Short again is really good in this film as Frank, and the chemistry is still there from what we saw in the first film, and it's very charming by the end, in the sense of the baby's being delivered and all this kind of stuff, and as you would expect, you know, they both kind of go into labour at the same time to make things even more dramatic and stressful and comedic for George, as Frank's got to step up and get people to the hospital because George is completely zonked on these sleeping pills and things. So it's got some nice moments in it. I thought the idea for this one, I mean, where do you go from Father of the Bride, the first one? Well, I thought the idea, what they came up with, was very good. I mean, they probably could have run with the daughter just being pregnant, but to actually make Diane Keaton pregnant and at the same time as the daughter just really added a new layer of interest and comedy to the movie, and it really helped and worked. And I just think it's a nicely made comedy. It complements the first one. They're both really nicely made. They both complement each other really well, and I can't really separate them in regards to quality, so I'm going to give the second one an 8 out of 10 as well. Like I say, quite old-fashioned comedies that are really nice to watch, the pair of them, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching them with my wife. It's a good few years since I've seen both of them, and I do recommend you go out and check these two comedies out. They're really nice and charming to watch, and certainly a nice change of pace to some of the comedies that we get these days. That's not to say they're all bad, because I do enjoy many of them these days, but this is a bit of a throwback to how comedies used to be, I suppose you could say, and we don't get enough of them anymore. These nice, charming, easy to watch comedies that are funny but also pretty grounded at the same time. So that's my double review for Father of Bride 1 and 2. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time for more reviews on Screen Stars.